You know, I have to give credit to my pastor. This message that I just recorded, this verse that we just read, that I just read to you guys, something prompted it because, like I said, like I revealed in the recording, right? I have long been very inconsistent in my my personal and intimate time with God. I have been quite inconsistent, and if you ask me, I have every logical, valid reasons to give, even to myself, and they're really valid. They really are. But you know, when you drop your own point of view for a moment and take on the point of view of God, those things that we see as relevant is really nothing, honestly. And of course, it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. So, why am I giving credit to my pastor? You know, I thank God for my pastor, Pastor Tokpa Shaba. He's the senior pastor in the church that I attend. Why am I thanking God for him? When I was talking about light of the believers, um, I just thank God for him. And I'm going to my thoughts are raging right now, but I'm going to try to coordinate my thoughts and make this make sense. But I promise you, if you stay on, you would eventually catch the fire I'm trying to give you here. So, we had a meeting with my pastor, my department, right? We had a meeting with my pastor very recently. And the meeting was, I think, for the short time that I've been in the church, it's the first of its kind that I have attended. Right, we've had other meetings, like other general meetings, but we've never had like departments to church, departments to pastor meeting, right? So this was my own unit, the department where I serve, with our pastor. So this meeting was basically just our pastor, trying to get a feel of what we're struggling with in our department. And it was just like a pre how do I even describe it? My words are failing me. So the meeting was essentially just to see where we are, struggling as a department. And he just wants us to discuss how we can come to a solution, how we can basically empower every department. So he's calling to see how he can come in and empower every department, and basically to also see how, as a unit, as a department, how we can, strategically empower ourselves to stand, and to also make sure that, like, we're not just a unit. We're not just a unit, but we're also a unit where, the people coming into that unit, they're also growing in the truth of God. And I think that was a part of the meeting that stood out to me. There was something he said. There was something he said, and it wasn't just the fact that he said it. It was how he said it, and I could just feel that was the main reason why he was having that meeting with us. You would think, like, on the surface, it feels like it was just a meeting to see how we can strategize and do better as a department, for the sake of, because my department is the media department. Let me just I think it's necessary that I make that obvious, right? So it is the media, the internet, the e-church department, right? So, and you know if one listened to the meeting, what he said in the meeting, with just just your normal human understanding, you would think he is calling us to discuss how we can do better as a media unit for the sake of the people watching us, so that we can attract more people into the church and all of that. You would think that was a whole point of the strategy and the meeting. But there was something else he said, and for some reason it stood out to me. And I think it was probably because I was already in the dilemma that I described to you guys about someone close to me coming to me and exposing something that he was going through, and I felt helpless, right? So he said in the meeting, there's something that he wants, that he wants our church to be able to achieve as a unit, is that the people that are coming into our unit to serve, right? They are not just coming to serve, but they are also able to grow. They are able to grow spiritually, and that also would in turn affect other areas of their life, and they are able to grow. So he sees a vision where every unit is not just like a hub where all this bunch of people just come to work and then we disappear for the whole week, and then we come back the next Sunday, we work, and then we go. He wanted it to be a unit that is producing believers that are on fire, believers with bright lights. Basically, this is just the best word that I can use to describe it from how I understand it. And this did not even hit me the moment he was saying it. It was when I got home and I rested and I was just like trying to rethink the meeting, and also like just kind of put myself in what was discussed, and see how I personally can do something, or what I can do as an individual in order to aid this vision, right? It was in that moment that I realized that this man just shined. I don't know how to describe it, right? Like, you see, the burden that I was carrying about being surrounded by believers but not feeling like I'm surrounded by light, right? I think he shares in that burden, and he didn't want to say it. He did not even say it. He did not say it directly, but I may be wrong, but I doubt it. I think that he sees that too, and that is why he wants to focus on building the people in the unit. He is so concerned about the soul of the people. You see, this is why I joined that church. This is why I decided to choose that church as my church. This leader is so concerned about the soul of the people that are working the fields of the house that is being trusted in his care. He cares about the people's soul. And that is why he wants us to discuss how we can be better. And in that moment for me, it was like his light was glowing, and his light affected me in a way that I never thought it would affect me. And to be very honest with you guys, that audio that I just recorded is the first of its kind. And what prompted that video was because the light that my pastor was carrying, that day that I was in close proximity to him, that light, how in occasions where people have like this candlelight night, and people lit one candle and you use that candle to lit other candles. He wasn't preaching in that meeting. It wasn't a preaching meeting. It was just a meeting, guys. But it was as if his light, I don't know if it was because I was one of those sitting closest to him in the meeting, I don't know. But what he said, just seeing his heart and his intention, it lit the candle, the dull candle that I was carrying, it lit it up. And it has been in my mind since Sunday, and I was like, today I just need to get into the word. I didn't even feel like getting into the word. I was like, I need to get into the word, but I can't read just any random chapter. The Spirit kept prompting me to go back to the Song of Moses, to go and read that, because that song, it's so important. I think that is the one verse that has the power and revelation to draw a believer back to the place of brokenness, because many of us are so far from that place. We've forgotten, we've abandoned that place. And all he did was shine his light. He did not even preach. He did not even talk about souls, right? But I got all of this power. It was like just that intention that he has, you know, just that intention. I could see that this is a believer whose fire is burning. His fire is burning, and I feel so blessed. I feel so deeply blessed. He will never understand how blessed I felt by being present in that meeting that day. Because that light, that fire, it empowered me. It empowered me to read the word again. It empowered me. It empowered me. It empowered me. And that is what I'm saying. And he is only one man. He is only one man. He cannot be everywhere. He cannot be everywhere. But the beauty, like I was saying about the candlelight effect, is that, one candle, it lights another dull candle. And that light candle, it goes around the hall and lights up other candle, and it never loses its fire. That is the effect. That is a spiritual law. That is a spiritual principle, you guys. When you're lit up, you're able to light other people up, I mean. And, that is part of my pain today. That this person so dear to me, he's not someone who is living in a den of unbelievers. He goes to a church, like all of us, like every one of us. He goes and he comes. And you mean to tell me there isn't one person that whose light is so undeniably, attractive, that draws you in, that he felt safe enough to go and tell his problem to? That is because people's lights are dim. The lights of believers are dim. He doesn't live in a den of unbelievers, you guys. He goes to church. He goes to church like you and I. And the thing is, the light of God, like I said, is so undeniable. It is so undeniable, and it is so powerful that all you need is just one encounter. Just one encounter. For someone who doesn't even go to church, who has never been to church, all they need is just to go to church once. The thing is, if we were all lit up the right way, the way my pastor desires for his workers to be lit up, if we were all lit up the right way, just one time that a newcomer is coming into the church is going to be enough to light him up, the way it was for me. Before I decided to join the baptizing church Abuja, I was in a mess. I was on a cliff, on a verge of throwing myself over and just giving up completely. And the first Sunday where I attended the church, it was still the same Pastor Tokwe. It was something he said, and it's kind of, at that point of my life, I was looking for truth. I was looking for where truth was being preached. I had been to many churches as a Christian, right? Like, just try to be religious and all of that, and just, do the normal thing that is expected as a Christian, to attend church on Sundays, right? So I had been to a couple of other churches. But when I came to the baptizing church for the first time, I've forgotten the message he was preaching, but he, At some point in the message, he talked about a particular weakness that he was dealing with at some point in his life. And it's a major weakness, not even something small, like a major weakness. And he talked about it openly on his pulpit. And I remember then being in the congregation, being in the midst of all the strange faces. I was looking around that moment when he was sharing that very vulnerable weakness, that very vulnerable struggle. I had to look around like, oh my God, like this man is, he's exposing his weakness in front of all these people. I had to look around to see if people were, being weird about it. But I could see how that, people were not acting weird. I wasn't hearing any side comments where people were like, judging. The fact that it wasn't as if it came easy for him, but, he said it, and I could just instantly tell that this is a norm here. This is not a place, this is not one of those churches where the pastor, they present an image that is so perfect, so godlike, that they are so unrelatable. Because I have never even spoken to any pastor in all the churches that I've been to, because I've always seen them as this high lord. That raised platform is kind of like the kind of psychology that happens with royal people. In the School of Architecture, there is a psychological effect to a leader standing on a raised platform. When a leader stands on a raised platform, it psychologically tells the people who are below, on the main platform below, it's psychologically rewiring our brain to look up to that leader. So it also makes people feel like we're not on the same level. That leader is higher than you. So if you now have a case whereby you have a leader that is proud, or a leader that positions themselves as a godlike character, you almost cannot relate to that leader. And that has been the experience I've had in every other churches that I've been to. I've never heard a pastor talk about their weakness or a struggle that they are working on with God, that they are actively trusting God and working on, like an actual pastor. I have never heard them talk about it. And my first time in this church, he talked about it. And it was in that moment I realized I didn't even instantly fall in love with the church immediately. But the one thing that I got out of that sermon that day was that this is a house where truth is being preached. This man is human. He's a servant of God. He recognizes that. He recognized that he is human. So even though he is the shepherd and the servant of God, the leader of each and every one of us sitting in that congregation, he doesn't, assume the role of God. He doesn't assume himself as God. He sees himself the same way God sees all of us, which is the same. We're all his children. Your pastor does not hold a special power over your life any more than God does, or any more than you do, actually, if you allow the potential to be stirred up in you, because you have the potential to do what your pastor is doing. And in a lot of churches, it feels almost political, like pastors try to project this image that, you have to come through them to receive your healing, to receive your breakthrough, your financial breakthrough, your deliverance, and all of that. But you never, hardly, let me just put it that way, hardly do I come across a pastor that, that projects himself as exactly what he is before the eyes of God. And that was the main reason I decided, I'm going to come to this church for the second time. And when I came for the second time, I mean, the rest is history. I've been a proud member of that church, and I'm not even here to talk about the church. This is just about the light this is about the light. And I find myself being so grateful to have a pastor like him exist in this world in such a time as this, where a lot of believers are facing a lot of battles and their light is dimming. Our light is dimming as believers. So I'm just so grateful. I'm so, so grateful. I'm so grateful that, I was able to have my candle lit up again. And God help the devil, because I'm about to go lit up. I'm about to go lit up more people. And this is by the grace and the power of God. Because all of this is by God's grace and God's strength. I have no strength of my own. I mean, I've tried doing things on my own many times and I keep failing. I don't have any strength on my own. The strength that I have is God. The fact that I was even able to catch that fire was not me, it was God. It was God. And I thank God that my pastor, I don't even know what his prayer routine is. I honestly don't know the books he reads, or how his routine is. I don't know. But I thank God that he has made himself a conduit for the light of God, the fire of God, and the power of God to flow through him to the people around his environment. I only just came. I barely even God, I'm one of those people who don't even know how to have, like a personal relationship with, my pastor. I've never been to my pastor's office before. That was my first time there, right? And wow, I'm just grateful. So that was what prompted me. That was what empowered. I would even say empowered. I wasn't prompted. I was empowered by the fire of God to make that audio. I have never done anything like that before. That was the fire of God. And I thank God for that. And yeah, I have to go now, but yeah, I hope you listen to the audio from the start to finish, and I pray that it ignites something in you as well. Yeah, as it did in me. So, God bless you. Have a good day.